All right, so going to talk about the clean today on Fit for Purpose Discussions. We're going to be talking about what makes it so beneficial, what can commonly go wrong with the clean, how we can optimize it over a long period of time. So if we're planning on having the clean as a part of our regular programming, how can we approach it in a way that we can continuously get benefit from it, but also treat it with the respect it deserves? Excuse me. And finally, then, just thinking about how we can, I think that covers everything. So, first off, the clean, what is it, right? It is a barbell movement primarily. We see it all the time in weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting in particular. So if you watch the Olympics, you'll see one of two movements. You'll see the snatch or the clean and jerk. The clean is taking the bar from the floor to the shoulders and standing it up. Okay, so that's essentially the straightforward definition. But there's so much more to it than that, and it's probably, bar the snatch, it is the most challenging movement we can do with the barbell. So when we're talking from a technical standpoint, to do it efficiently, and to do it in a manner that's going to get the most out of the movement, it's one of the most challenging things we can do. There's so much happening in a row, so we have to try and get all these pieces lined up perfectly so that we can maximize and get the most benefit out of this movement as possible. So the clean, then, the pros, the benefits of a clean. What we'd be looking for is we'd be getting explosive power from the floor. So generating massive explosive drive from the floor, and that's going to carry across to pretty much everything we do that involves some sort of hip drive. So whenever you think about any movement where you have to create speed through your hips, so like a kettlebell swing, a kipping pull-up, a push press, push jerk, a squat, toe to bar, like anything that requires a rapid open and closing of the hip, the clean is going to help, okay? Because that's exactly what needs to happen. We are pushing away from the floor with the barbell in our hands. We explode up through the hips, receive by closing the hips very quickly into a partial knee bend and hip flexion. We'll then stand the bar up from that flexion and complete the movement. Now, the clean can be received in a partial squat or a full squat. Whenever you see the words clean or the clean, that's a squat. That's the full movement. If you see the word power clean, you're going to receive that barbell. Once you've taken it from the floor, you'll jump the bar up, you'll extend the hips, the bar will float up nicely, hopefully, and you'll receive the bar in a partial squat. That's a power clean, and then stand it up out of that position. So the main pro is that explosive power. Now, you're going to get a bunch of benefit with this movement as well through leg strength, hip strength, glute strength, hamstring strength, back strength, stability, core, midline stability. All of these things are going to benefit from this movement, which is incredible. It's incredible that we can have a movement that benefits so much in one go. And it's one of the best things we can do as far as improving our fitness and our overall ability to control our bodies and move our bodies with strength and with function. So I personally think the clean is one of the best things that we can do in our training, whether it's with a light, moderate, or heavy loading. I would say we need to touch a heavy loading fairly regularly for the clean, but I would be keen on cleaning at least once a week, once every other week at the very, very least, because of the benefits that we get from it. So that's the clean, that's the pros from it. I would really encourage you, if you're not sure, if you don't know what this movement is, you've never heard of it, or you can't picture it, I would look up just like Olympic weightlifting cleans, or a particular coach who is incredible at describing the movement and coaching the movement is a guy called Mike Bergner. I would really encourage you to look him up on YouTube. He has some great videos on that. So that's the clean. That's why we want to do it. Anything to do with improving hip strength is going to be beneficial for your life to come. So whenever you get older, having strong hips is super important. Especially, I used to work in in the trauma and orthopedic unit in the hospital as a physio assistant, and we saw broken hips all the time from older folk. And a lot of the time it was just because, well, first of all, they didn't have the balance to stay on their own 2 feet. They fell over, right? And that balance can be developed through a movement like the clean. But not only that, whenever they went down, their bone density, because they got older, your bone density naturally drops anyway. But if the clean was a big part of their life, or squatting, or elements of the clean were a part of their life, the chances of breaking a hip when you fall at the age of 65, 70, 75 are dramatically reduced. So it's another big reason why we would be doing that. Now, the pitfalls of the clean. I'm going to try and make this as short as possible because I I know I can go ramble on a bit. The pitfalls, big thing. Whenever I see people cleaning the bar, is because we hold on to the bar, because your hands are on it, it makes us feel like we have to pull that barbell to our shoulders. It makes us feel like we have to use our arms to get the bar to your shoulder. And what that does is just put loads of tension into your upper body, your arms, your forearms, your grip. And when we have too much tension in our upper body, it takes over, and we take all of the power away from our legs, and we don't allow the legs to do the job that we really want them to do when we're doing a clean. So one thing, what that would often look like is, as the bar's coming up and past the knee, I'll start to see the arms, instead of being locked out on the way up, I'll start to see the elbow bend, and we're starting to pull the bar up before I've even extended or jumped to get that bar moving. And that is probably the most common fault that I'll see in a clean. So what I'll often say to that person is, make sure your arms are straight until you've jumped. Okay, so I try to encourage that jump, that drive, before we even think about pulling with the elbows or pulling through the arms and the shoulders. So that's where the timing would come into play there. That would be the main pitfall, I would say. Another thing that I would say as well is just really slow elbows. So on the turnover, so they'll do a nice big jump, and then the elbows would be really slow turning the bar over. And we want to get speed underneath that bar. We want to try and pull and punch through with our elbows as fast as possible, so that we can receive the bar with a load of stability. And then the last one I'll touch on is and I could go on forever on this, so we could probably make another 5 videos on the clean, just talking about faults and cues and prompts and fixes and things. But one of the biggest thing I'll see is whenever you extend, whenever you do that jump on the clean and you receive the bar, what you might often see is when someone lands, and this is more in a power clean, it can happen in a squat clean as well, but whenever the person receives the bar, you'll see their knees shoot forward, and their hips will almost follow their knees forward, and their weight just flies forward onto their toes. And what happens there is there's just a load of pressure going down through the knees. The weight becomes super unstable because we're not stable on our feet. The base is not solid, and all the weight shoots forward, and it feels like the bar's then like pressing us away and back, and we're really unstable. So what I'll often say to that is, if you find that whenever you land in your clean, whenever you jump and receive, on that receive, if you feel a load of weight in your toes, the good thing to think about is whenever you're landing, you think about land through your heels with your bum back. Okay, so butt back when you land, and that will generally send the weight towards your heels, and you'll feel much more stable when you land. So I see that all the time as well. Now, the last thing I wanted to touch on is how we can optimize this movement. And a good place to start there is to remind yourself that the clean is a movement that weightlifters do full time. They do nothing else. It's like they snatch and they clean and jerk. They snatch and they clean and jerk. That's the only thing they do ever. Some accessory movements and different bits and pieces, but cleaning and snatching is it for their entire training regimen. And they still have areas to improve on 10 years into their career of weightlifting. So first of all, we need to give it that perspective. Now, if you're doing CrossFit or functional fitness where you're doing loads of different movements on a regular basis, and the clean will maybe be in there once, twice, maybe 3 times a week, it's nowhere near the same amount of practice as what that professional weightlifter would be doing. So we need to keep that in perspective and give ourselves a little bit of leeway for how long it's going to take to become really efficient with this movement. So with the clean, remember you're playing the long game. Remember it's a skill as well as a show of strength. So we need to practice at light weights, moderate weights, and heavy weights. All three are required to improve in this movement. First of all, the heavy weight, we need to try and move that because that generates that top end strength and explosive power in the movement. It also improves confidence in moving a heavy barbell. The moderate barbell, that's going to challenge us much more aerobically, but also it's going to challenge your movement with multiple reps at a moderate loading, and you'll be able to figure out where that movement starts to break down quite well with a moderate loading. So it's a really good opportunity. And when I say moderate, think like kind of like 60 to 75%. Then when we look at light loadings, that's an opportunity to move as perfectly as possible, and really dial in technique with either an empty barbell or just a light barbell. And light to me would be anything up to about 50%. Maybe a wee bit lighter than that. So, I mean, for argument's sake, you could say empty bar to 40% is light, 40% to 75 or 70% is moderate, and then 70 obviously to 100 would be heavy. That's really really simply put, but just to keep it in your mind that way. We need to practice it at all these different loadings, lots of different rep ranges. We need to practice skill transfer exercises as well. Those are things that just optimize the movement in specific parts of the movement. So things like clean pulls, muscle cleans, drop cleans, high hang cleans, just cleaning from lots of different positions, and then pausing in different positions as well. So like a pause clean where you would receive in your partial squat and pause there for a couple of seconds to really remain stable in that receiving position. There's loads of ways that we can improve on that, and yeah, play the long game, guys. I'm going to end it right here, and I hope you find that helpful. I know it's a long video, so feel free to watch it in stages. I know I just said that at the end, but bye.